Benvenuti a questo incontro di Biennale Tecnologia. Nell'ultimo giorno di incontri sono Juan Carlos De Martin e sono il co-curatore di Biennale, oltre che docente in questo Ateneo.
Good morning and welcome, co-curator of this event with Luca De Biase. I'm particularly happy to just say a couple of words as an introduction to this meeting, and then I'll give the floor to my friend Davide Quadrio, because this event is the first explicit official cooperation between Biennale Tecnologia and the Museum for Oriental Arts in Turin. We are particularly happy for many reasons. I'll just mention a couple. Apart from the friendship and the shared views between myself and Davide, there are other reasons. First of all, Biennale Tecnologia has a motto: technology and humanity. So even at the first edition in 2019, we did talk about technology, not only from the perspective we normally have here at the Polytechnic, and we are in one of the classrooms where we have classes at the Polytechnic. So we don't only look at technology in terms of innovation and the state of the art of productive technologies, but we, as Biennale Tecnologia, we try and approach techniques in a more general and wide perspective, spiritual, useful, less useful, complex artifacts that humankind has always created. So from this point of view, having art here at Biennale has always been very important. We're here to talk about humble technology as well. We have a guest this year who's going to tell us about pumps, springs and balls, technologies that are still very important and support our contemporary world, but in some cases are 1,000-year-olds. So we are here to talk about technology in a wide-ranging way. That's why our cooperation with museums is very important. We had Christian Greco on Friday. He gave his perspective from the Egyptian Museum, and he talked about telling history through objects. So here we have the Museum for Oriental Art. It's a wonderful museum here in Turin. I'm very happy that they are cooperating with us. Also, we're very much interested in art. We have a very distinguished guest from China who, together with Davide, will tell us about contemporary art and how art can help us understand technology. It's not just enough to follow traditional disciplines. We also need the contribution of art, and that's why I have taken a couple of minutes to give you a very short introduction. Thank you very much for being here on a Sunday morning, and thank you, of course, to our guests. Thank you.
Grazie, Juan Carlos.
Thank you, Juan Carlos.
The presentation today will be in English to facilitate a bit of the dialogue with me and Aaajiao. We should have done it in Chinese. It would have been very exotic, but I think that for this time we're going to do it in English. So I just want to say a few words to introduce Aaajiao. First of all, Xu Wenkai, coming from the north of China, a very sort of wild territory, Xi'an. We met, we are saying today, around 15 years ago in China, was living in Shanghai, and also moved to Shanghai as a young artist. And I was dealing with an art space, a sort of very important connector between contemporary cultures and political presence in a time that Shanghai was open, or it seemed open to a very progressive way of thinking, culture, and social development. We were saying with Aaajiao that things changed a lot in the last 10 years. We moved out of China at the same time, me after almost 30 years of living in China. Aaajiao all his life, and now is based in Berlin, working as an artist, as a thinker, and also, really taking care of something very important, this observation of the political movements, in China. So today we're gonna split the talk with a part which is not a talk, but is a presentation. We come from visual arts, so we need to look at things, from a visible, let's say, tool, which in this case will be a video, which we are also presenting at the MAO, the Museum of Oriental Art, at the moment in the lobby, and it's going to be on for a few months. But we wanted to share it with you. It's actually a bit long, and we know that it's a bit long, and we decided not to cut it, because, as Juan Carlos was just saying, technology is not only about technology, but it's also about art and humanities. And actually, we forget how important it is, to look at things in a much more complex way. So we wanted to share this with you because it's going to bring you into a realm of information and visual information that will look a bit outside, what we are used to in a way, because it's not about exoticism, but it's about different way of living in a way. And China is actually an incredible experiment place in that sense. And so we want to show this first. It lasts 15 minutes, so it's actually a long time, but it's a very enjoyable film as well. So just hold on that. And then we're going to get into a conversation with me and Aaajiao that's going to really try to dissect this video to make you understand the complexity, but also how China and a different kind of the world is representing, the post-human or the pre-post-human. We are still in a bit of a pre-post-human, but things are moving extremely fast. And in some cultures and in some social contexts and political contexts, this actually offers a possibility for a very deep discussion about principles related to technology. China and the Far East are much more osmotic when you talk about technology in general, because, and we're going to talk about that, because there is really a very different way of thinking how technology is versus humanities. Okay, so part of the conversation will be on this, but let's look and watch the movie together first. And then we're going to dig into it, and hopefully we can have you also, interact with us in a sort of more dynamic way. If you can put the movie on, se può mettere, grazie.
So, if you think about category, we make type tractors, we make wheelers, we make excavators, we make all the things, right?
这个正常，科技要慢慢习惯是吧？自己要慢慢习惯的。谁刚开始玩游戏是很牛逼的，慢慢来，慢慢来。
4999，一天我就拉5000个框，多一个我也不干。5000个，下班下班下班下班。
是拉框，午饭之前能拉够3000框，真的太爽了。2345、2346，今天起床就开始拉框，午饭之前能拉够3000框，真的太爽了。
这是我们洗澡。这哪能是我们的？穿的衣裳。对，啊，没错。哎呀，就要发这个说明啊，这他妈发的抢货王去了。
eben all diese Sehnsüchte werden ja angesprochen und ich denke, die berühren jeden Menschen, ob er religiös ist oder nicht. Ja, herzlichen Dank auch für das Gespräch.
Okay, so it was not really suffering to look at all, is also the preview of the solo exhibition that Aaajiao will have in Berlin next week. And so I thank you to be here because you need to install starting from tomorrow. So you see the complexity of our existence as an everyday. But I want to ask Aaajiao, the source, how and what is the point of showing, the minority. It's almost a bit of the 90s. You remember the Minority Report film? So it's a bit of that. But so where should we start from? How do you tackle all this content? And if you can explain a bit also this very liminal space between what is real, what is not, but also how actually technology allowed resistance, in a very sort of socio-political manner.
I think based on the video, the video called Minority, the algorithm, why the title come out. I think most of the material from the social media. I use the Twitter more than more than 10 years, I collect a lot of the short video from Twitter. What means I collect, it is a kind of, you are under the commercial, the algorithm, the platform, the algorithm. But as the human, as the people, you can also edit. I cannot say it's kind of the creative. I say it's edit. For me, the edit, the motion, the action is kind of the minority, the algorithm. But I think it's very important because now we are under the computing power, under the platform, the algorithm. We cannot escape. Everyone use your smartphone and everyone use the email. I think that all the things is already a very stable the system. But I still want to keep a human being's feeling as you try to edit your mind. So I think I want to use the knowledge to create my works. So I put a lot of the video I saw from the social media and create together as the works. And also I think very important from the video works, I talk about the way of saying. That's a long-term topic. I always want to research and find out. Because for me, the saying is very important for the people to understand the truth, to understand our society, and understand what it means we are living here.
One important thing that I want to underline for our audience who I don't know how much is aware of the complexity of the Chinese social system, right? There is this sort of preconcept, that basically China is a sort of one block, social block where resistance doesn't exist, where critical thinking doesn't exist, or if it exists, it's always somehow in the part of the being crushed, But I think that you mentioned something today is very important, which is how Chinese societies is actually not one society, and China doesn't represent Chineseness, and actually Chineseness is something much more complex, which is global at the moment, and you're part of this global system. And so I think it's interesting to reveal to our audience, this idea of how, your artwork is adding meaning, histories, but it's interesting also how in China, AI, WeChat, all the feeding, all the digital work is of course part of the algorithm, but also can be used, to overstep, what is somehow it seems like a pattern, And I remember a very interesting moment that it was sugli, the 1st of April, for instance. And there are also like moments in the film that maybe we can go back to where you really see how incredible a cyber attack in China can maneuver opinions, but also can maneuver technology to obtain what you want. Just to be, I don't know if you know what it was this moment. It was the 1st of April. It was during the most incredible moment in Shanghai where when the city was completely blocked for, I think, almost three months, right? And so nobody could actually get out. Everything was fenced, and people who are there, and I know some of the people here were. So it was a very dramatic moment. But out of the sudden, the 1st of April at night, there was this video that came out, and it was reposted on WeChat in an incredible speed. And every time that basically the algorithm would try to stop it, there was a gang of people that were taking the same footage, adding images from from Xi Jinping at first, or like some commercial, and then it was injecting the same content, so that algorithm couldn't basically stop it. But the speed of that, and I saw a video by a friend that recorded the moment that it happened, and the algorithm couldn't stop it for an entire night, which in cyber time is a lifetime, So this kind of things, for instance, they never came out in Europe, this kind of resistance, How do you see that? And how do you see how algorithm can actually be cheated, not only from an artistic point of view, but also to create an alternative history?
I think the internet, the medium from the internet is very fast and sometimes they're very useful. Like if today something happened, kind of the social movement, we can get a lot of information in 1 second. But I believe another sentence is the internet don't have memory. Because for me, the medium from the internet is also super vague. So today, a lot of artists, all the people who focus on the internet culture, we try to make something to make the medium from the internet alive for a long time. I think as an artist working for the contemporary art, I love a lot of things from the internet, but on the other side, I try to use my work to empower the vague medium from the internet. So like the David talked about, I try to use my works to empower the counter history from my motherland. Because that moment, a lot of things come out, but past 1 week, people cannot find that. Because the competing power and the control by the detector, by the government, it's very easy to renew your memory. But I think as an artist, my works, sometimes it should be remark the important moment in my works and use a traditional way to show that as the reference for the young generation.
Another thing that you touch upon, which is very important, is the matter of control, and how to keep the control of that. So part of this film is also about how AI and new technology, the recognition of bodies, of movements, but also, the targeting of people, And what is incredible is that, of course, we have become so accustomed, to violence that is shot as if was not real, and how you can really dissect what is real and what is not. And some of the images of war that you show, they actually are real or not, but you don't understand if they're real or not anymore, And so this kind of control put in place, not only because of the content, but also, and most importantly, of the reaction of people, which actually allows them to see what's happening now. I mean, if you think about, I was completely shocked when media in Europe reacted because 6 people, from non-government NGOs were killed in Gaza, and it seems that 15,000 more children died are part of a sort of abstract film. So how that is put in place and how you look at that, from a possible, as you were saying, a possible way to keep information in a way that actually stay relevant, and in a strange way, if you think about the way that Europe is using technology is completely different than the way that the technology is used. If you want to talk about China, but also in East Asia in general, because it's much more organic, it's much more part of your existence. It's been accepted as, part of your almost body, in some of the images where you see the cyborgs, the man that becomes machine, that becomes man, that becomes machine, But so how do you see, how can we learn, from what's happening in the context of China that can actually make us aware of the risks, that we are encountering?
I think from the memory and the experience when I living in China, I think people love the technology. Why? Because they don't have another chance to enjoying the social structure or something like that. They're saying, okay, we use the technology, it's kind of empower themselves. But that's a very tricky thing because the technology or the whole system is very easy to the civilized by the government, by the power, and also they very easy to trading and change your habits. So why I focus on the way of saying, like in the video, like in our habits to use the internet, a lot of young generation use the TikTok to love the short video. It's very happy when you use that, but you should think about why you feel comfortable, feel happy, feel chill, feel you need that. It's like a drug because they really don't give you real content, but they follow your human being. They make a very powerful eyes candy. You can always refresh and get a new result, but you don't really need to care what really happened. Like my video, I show some the word, the things they use the donor to watch the video and they broadcast in the Twitter. I must say, sometimes it should be a propaganda, but people say the video to try to understand what the background. But you just check, you can have the new content come out. And it's so hard to get back to know deeply. So I think it's a very big issue when we follow the platform, the algorithm, all the saying of the word by the commercial, the big company. We should care about that because that moment, I think that everyone is not a human. You are just kind of the point of the data. You can only do is check like or forward that's the garbage, the information to your friends.
One thing that we talked about before, preparing for this talk, it was about stereotyping, and how AI, for instance, now to move a bit, out of the is actually enhancing stereotyping. And one of the things that I found incredibly interesting, because I never thought about it, that you said that AI cannot think of creating an image of a couple without being both of them Asian, if they're Asian, white, if they're white, black, if they're black, right? So can you talk a bit more about these aspects, of the AI and the risks of that?
I think I'm not the anti the AI person. I love to use the ChatGPT to help me to translate a lot of the document, are very easy to read, and also I use the ChatGPT as my text advisor. In the Berlin in German, the system is so hard to understand what it means. It's very useful. But another side, based on my research, the AI is the the decentralized the things right now. I must say, because the large language, the model, they really need a lot of the power and the resource to generate themselves. It means they need a huge money. And it means they should be the big platform can do that. And now we have the problem because our world is not beautiful. I think they learn from the real world. They learn from the world already existed the 100 years. The data there. The data include a lot of stereotype, the content, the races. It's so hard to change. So just before the speech, we'll talk about the news I show on the screen. The metas, the AI, the modern, they just the announcement, the image, the generator, they cannot generate a picture, the Asian man with a white woman, because they don't have the data, enough data show that. So they can only make the couple both from Asia. So that's a ridiculous thing, but it's always happened recently.
Another thing that we talked about that is be water, and I think it can be an interesting topic to finish this little conversation between us and to open to the public. When you talk about AI and you talk about technology, you forget some of the physical aspects of that, you know, and actually there is no software at all. They're really hardware, you know, and then and I like the statement that you know the research that I've been doing on the be water concept, you know, if you can explain what it means be water in the context of China. And then how that can impact, you know, the way that we are thinking technology and ecology related to technology as well.
I think the Be Water, the first time they come out to the public, I think it's many years ago from the very famous the movie and the philosophy, the star, the Bruce Lee. He called Be Water. And I think that meaning it's water can flow, water can shape to any kind of they want. They're very smart and always there. And why I focus on the Be Water, because I think the 3 or 4 years ago, the Hong Kong Revolution, they are the decentralized social movement. And the young generation, they use the Be Water as their slogan because they want to protect everyone who is joining the movement. Do not fight with the power directly. You should find your smart way and safe way and continue the fighting. And also back to the AI, the data center is really need the real water as a resource to calling the machine and the system. So I think it's a very, very interesting moment. The water more important in the different level of our society. So some of my works also surround the Be Water, the concept. I try to explain, use water to connect the different parts and what really happened right now, and try to explain why the human still important, why our mind and our thinking is important, because we still have power to connect the things together and sitting here to talk.
I think it's a good way to start a conversation with this closing. So we touch upon many things, and I think it's a good occasion for everybody to discern and dissect, you know, a lot of the things. And there are a lot of the things that I don't know if the audience is aware. I don't know if you really know what it means, the Hong Kong movement. Maybe they didn't hear, I don't know. But also what it means, you know, to create this fluid way of assisting the social and political check in the context of China, for instance, at the moment. You know, we have this tendency of thinking that China doesn't have within the system, you know, possibilities of creating counter-cultures or counter-social systems. But actually, of course, you know, I mean, there are ways, you know, and Aaajiao brings to us some of the, you know, of the urgent matters that our society needs, you know, to consider to survive an homologation on one side, but also to create, you know, different narratives and different stories, you know, in order to create and to enrich the possibility of our society to grow. Before I leave it to you guys, this is part of the work that we are doing very punctually in the Museum of Oriental Art. It's really about thinking what does it mean to have an Oriental Art Museum in Turin? What can bring, you know, to the complexity of our society, but also which kind of visions, objects coming from so far can actually bring into our culture, and how actually, you know, the relationship with them can create a new understanding, you know, of cultural dominance, for instance, you know. So all of these are very political issues, and I believe that it's extremely important that cultural structures need to talk about it, not in a positive way, but really in a dialogue that builds on critical thinking. And I think one of the things that you've been touching upon as well is the fact that it's so complicated to see the truth, then becomes that everything that we see becomes black and white because it's simple, but actually nothing is simple. So the way that mechanisms of expansion of possible critical analysis of our contemporary life creates really like new standards of historicization, but also of knowledge per se. One of the things that is very interesting about the global China, is as well the fact that there are different narratives which are built both on the locality of that particular Chinese community and on the global scale. When you talk about China, you always think about the People's Republic of China, but the People's Republic of China is one of the Chinese-ness possible. China is been spreading through Southeast Asia, Indonesia. Singapore is one of the reference points and the models also of the Chinese government in terms of social construction, but also Indonesia, the economy is mostly detained by a Chinese diaspora. Thailand, the biggest Chinese community outside China, is actually in Bangkok. Hong Kong is a very particular China. Taiwan is a very particular China. And all the nuances, of cultural constructions between China and the sister regions, which is Korea and Japan, but also Siberia and Mongolia, but also, all the Xinjiang and all, is a complex system of societies and cultures that actually are very little disclosed, in their European context, creating a very simple opposition of cultures, while it's much more complicated than that. Part of the museum that what we are working on is really about that. In May, during the book fair, we're going to host 3 people, not coming from China descent, but coming from Bangladesh, Lebanon, and Doha, to talk about how Europe is censoring other cultures at the moment, and how in the last couple of years, for instance, we saw something unprecedented in terms of how Europe is being shifting in a very particular way what is allowed and what is not. And it particularly hits not the local community, but voices coming from other places, and so this is also part of the awareness that we are talking about, that is about meeting with people, having experiences, and being human, and being able to talk to each other. And then technology is a tool, and it's a very interesting tool, and it's going to be always a fantastic tool, It can be evil, but it can be amazing, and that is part of the truth. But if you don't keep the humanity that is underlying that, and the possibility that the human brain, but more than that, the human empathy, that actually create connection, then we're really going to be at the servitude, of a system that it doesn't belong to us anymore. Voilà, sorry, a little. So let's open to the discussion. We have, I don't know how many minutes we have left, but we try until they're going to kick us out. So if you have any question, please do. Ah sì, potete farlo anche in italiano.
You can ask questions in English as well, but
Avete qualcosa? Grazie. Ne hai due per caso? Così la do, grazie. Prego.
Okay, I'll do my question in English. First of all, I think you have a great sensitivity as an artist, of course, and you show that through your artworks. And my question is, after moving to Western country, to Western world, what's, let's say, the thing that you consciously or unconsciously you change it of your behavior and way of thinking?
I think the last 5 years, I already used my works to explain my identity, the issue. I think when I just moved to Berlin, okay, I'm always say, okay, I'm just the overseas Chinese. Overseas Chinese, the world is belong to, controlled by the Chinese government. And then, okay, I think maybe I'm not. Because I live in there, I have new friend, I try to make some new works. I think, okay, maybe I'm the diaspora Chinese. And then the recent 2 years, I think, okay, I feel I already escaped the kind of the China dream. I'm just the people who live in the Berlin, who can speak the Mandarin very well, and the English, and I'm based in Deutsch. That's all. I feel free. But another side, it's I can't say the society. I just say the talking about the Berlin, the community. I'm just nobody there, and I can fail in the whole society. They don't need artists from Asia, from China. They try to be a diversity, but that's the performance for me. Sometimes I must say I have chance to show my works, but I don't think they really want to listen your idea if you're talking about their society. They only give you enough respect as you are talking about your motherland. But I already it's scared for years. So I think I'm not give up. I try, but I try to give the feedback. Try to make a different noising. But I cannot just follow the performance, the diversity in the community. I think it's useful. And also, the people who really care about what really happened in the world, they cannot only listen some answer as their mind, right? Yeah.
Yeah, remember that, Aaajiao and I, we've been working in China and doing, progressive work before getting out, and there is always a negotiation in any kind of society, right? That, it seems that you can do whatever you want, in Italy, but actually, you have self-restrictions as well. You have of course, it's not comparable in terms, for instance, of a certain kind of control that Aaajiao was saying, and some of the conversation on the words that we're using here, for instance, are always mindful of what can be broadcasted and reported, not for us, but for people that might, be also damaged by what we are telling, And it's a very strange game, because on one side, as Aaajiao was saying, you are always aware of risks, when you do things, because the moment that you do as an artist or as a curator or as a director of a museum, whatever you do, it becomes public, and it becomes, it becomes questionable, okay? So, and I think in a positive way, what China taught us, is that you always be aware of what you're saying, not because you need to hide things, but because you need to respect the possibility that whatever you say and you do can create, damages to other people, But that doesn't mean that there are ways, of saying things, of behaving as an artist, In Chinese artists, yes, he's a Chinese artist, but he's an artist living in Berlin, right? That, I mean, it was much easier for me to be an Italian living in Shanghai, and it doesn't really change, just doesn't make you think of how you change in being Italian in Shanghai. Of course you change, you become somebody else. It's like Briadotti is saying, identities change throughout your life, in so many different aspects and different ways. So of course that Aaajiao, that is Aaajiao that I know, and the conversation are exactly the same conversation and topics that we had when we were in China, but now you developed into a global context, the much need to be aware of, your position in what you do, and especially in the cultural field, and as an artist or as a curator, I don't think there is in the recent life, that I imagine, such a critical moment in the global culture, that really needs organizations, individuals, to be aware of the importance of the role that you have in creating, zones of understanding the complexity of this world, and I think that culture really needs to do that as education and, as a producer, of cultural content. Altre domande? Sì. Prego. Sì, come vuoi.
Posso fare? Vado io? Salve.
Pardon. E dopo...
A way to boost, enhance knowledge is try to find a way that art technology, artificial intelligence, are able to collaborate each other. But could rise a big problem. I mean, the difficult to distinguish the real from the unreal, the imaginary. In a kind of sense, to find ourselves in a cage where we become less capable to interact as a social human manner between us like human. This tendency could be useful for the government and power. How can a single human being escape, become free and amplify awareness, maybe force himself to isolate, using, for example, mindfulness and philosophy and critical thinking. Sorry for the English.
Potete anche, se vuoi, anche in italiano poi.
I think for my mind, still trust your friend. Still believe that human can be human. Don't give up as a human.
The other thing I think which is interesting is that you're talking about wellness and about philosophy and mindfulness. Which, when you come after so many years of Asia, it's a bit of laughable thing in the sense that what actually makes interesting the connection between technology and a certain kind of technology and the body and the human being, but also the philosophy level, or the religious level. In a certain context, and you think about the Chinese Buddhist context, of Taoist context, the fact that the centrality of human being is not really a centrality anymore. There are living creatures, and AI can be another kind of living creature. So there is a lot of writing about this actually at the moment. That is really a philosophical question. Just to give a small example, you can go now to Buddhist temples in Japan or even in China, and the monks who are giving you the blessing are actually robots, that they answer to you through an AI consciousness, So what is the difference between the consciousness of a human being and the one of a grass or a computer, So there is really a shift in a certain kind of cultural context, and philosophical and religious context in Asia that is that actually makes your question somehow not relevant anymore, because it's basically another life, that it comes in. But I say this to provoke, but it's not only to provoke, but also to explain the possible complexity of other systems, which I think Europe really needs to learn, to be at least aware of, And for me to come back to Europe, it was really like this dramatic thing of seeing that it's somehow a given. Then a Chinese person comes to Europe and speaks English and he knows the culture and is able to interface with this culture, And actually, it's not what happens very often when a white person, goes to other cultures and actually just assume that the other cultures need to adapt to us, And I think this is really something that is very much related to a colonialist point of view, but also to a certain kind of hegemony, that the last 200 years have been really creating, in the context of global culture, So I think that somehow, what is happening with the AI, what is happening in all this, realm, can be also an interesting way to rediscuss questions related to hegemony, to cultural hegemony, to representations, in a positive way. But of course, you need always to be aware and to be surrounded, as Aaajiao says, to the right people, to have checkpoints, And it is what is becoming more and more complex and more difficult, to discern. And I think that the reason why we wanted to show the film, the preview of Aaajiao works, is also because it says everything, without becoming too literal as well, and confuses you, in terms of what you understand, what is real, what is not, but also. When you see the images of, for instance, of Shanghai and the COVID moment, like when there is the man, shutting the door, of the gate, or the person, shouting, saying this person is already dead, or see the ambulance going away with this person on the back because she couldn't actually follow, the dead body. So all these kind of things, they give you hints of the complexity, but also how much we are distant, from an understanding of other parts of the world, and I think that is the right time to really think that we need to study, other things to create more complexity in our minds as well. C'era un'altra domanda?
First of all, thank you for your presentation. May I ask you a question about interpretation of the video we saw at the beginning, and can I ask you if you can correct me if it is wrong? So I wanted to ask you, did you put true war footages in the presentation to transmit, to convey the idea that we look at social media, we use them, we watch for example, images of the war footages, we extract the strong emotion, and then we immediately pass to other footages, to other clip, to extract more emotion. So we are like using them to crave emotions rather than informations. Is this interpretation correct or not?
Yeah, I think on screen now they have the attention economy. I think all the things around that, because okay, you saw the video, a short video or the image from the wall, you have a lot of emotion, you have idea, but because it's short, and also maybe you read some comment, and then what's the next step you do? I think most of the people, they don't have choice, just check to another things. So the bad emotion, is also very good attention economy. It's a very good attention business. So I think for my mind, I think I cannot escape the social media because I need the emotion, and the emotion is part of the attention economy. So my question is why I want to make the video, why I want to ask everyone who saw the video, a question is, what's the next?
The other thing that it was in the video that I don't know if you noticed it, when the people were talking about, oh, I just did 3,000 frames, 4,000 frames, and the attention of economy is also an economy of desperation, like something that is very difficult to understand is how the new labor, the new labor that they paid nothing, to create content, for instance, that is another economy that actually replicates the real world, but through a economy of attention, So waking up and having like 3,000 frames, which are not enough, to have enough money to actually go on, who thinks about that, and I think it is interesting in the video as well, that it's not only about the moving on and what to do next, but also it's about all this content. It's content that is built through a very sort of desperation related to laboring, at a very cheap level, creating, a new caste of people who actually are almost like slaves of the economical system.
Yeah, and they also use their screen, the smartphone, to do that. Yes. Yeah, and they are very happy sometimes. They say, okay, I don't need to go the public, I just stay home, I can get a job, but the job sometimes is meaningless. But another side is very important and cannot replaceable for the big company because they must fund the kind of work to improve the AI and the modern and the data. So I want to show the details and ask everyone what's next.
Hi, thank you so much for your talk and showing the film. I just wanted to ask something about the audiovisual part of the film, and I don't know if you know the band called Radiohead, and they had an album called OK Computer, and well, in that film, I felt it's kind of relevant to the topic of that album, which is mostly about consumerism, modern and social alienation. And what my question is, how the visual perspective, the audio perspective of this film is kind of integrated to the visual narrative, because I felt in some parts it's not like it's not matching at all. For example, there was one scene where the Chinese woman was, she removed her mask, and then there was a song by Gary Glitter from 1972, and it was like a dance song. And I just wanted to know how these two things are connected, the visual part and the audio part. Thank you.
The audio is from my friend who is working with me more than 20 years. And I asked her to help me to make the sound part. And we also discussed that part you talk about. She just record from the German, the local, the video, and re-edit, mix with the video. Why she use that? Because she didn't know the song. She don't care the content because she focused on the sound art. She didn't know that very popular. But I think it's very fit for the video because that's the feeling. Sometimes when you use the TikTok, always the same background, the audio. Why it works? Because it's easy to make you remember the mood, the emotion. So that's kind of very easy way to trading you. The algorithm trading you by the very simple things. It's the same, the background sound. So why I put the same logic in the video, I think it works. I want to someone like you to ask the question. I can talk about
that. Just a quick question. Thank you. First of all, what is the role, in your opinion, of the body and embodiment in this complex scenario? Also, I think about how to hold on with body, okay? How to resist.
I think in the video, my mind is totally lose my body. I only left is the view. So I think in the video I have a lot of different views. One video is the smartphone, the camera view. The second is the screen view. And then it's the donor view. And another side, maybe a lot of kind of the simulator, the view. I think that together, maybe if you want to talk about like the body, maybe that's the the body. I think for me, if we are only focused on the screen, we cannot feel in the physical, the body, but we own another kind of body. Back to the concept, the cyborg, back to the cyberspace.
Yeah. If you have the chance to go, I was just at the opening of Venice Biennale for the last few days, and there is an amazing show by Pierre Huyghe, this artist from France, yeah. Or Belgium. I have a moment. Anyway, exactly, and really talks about this in a incredible, amazing way, because it doesn't allow you to go into judgment, or to criticize, the complexity of the relationship between bodies and, and what we are talking about. And it does it in a very subtle, almost post-human way. It's like, it's not even an observation. It's like if humanity doesn't exist anymore and actually doesn't really matter anymore, and so something else is existing. So if you have it's actually at the Punta della Dogana, and it's going to be on for a few months. But we found it very, very, really perfect for what you're saying, and it gives answer to that in a meaningful way, very precise way. So, or maybe online you can find some stuff. But the experience, this idea, and that is something also that I very much consider as part of the work that we are doing in the museum, is that you can create whatever you want in terms of content, but then humans really need to experience things, and that goes through through your body, right? So one of the things that I notice is really the possibility of creating experiences, how people react to that, because it becomes an intimate, personal way of existing, and maybe that is really what is left now, is right, to be there, to be in a place where things happen to you and you can feel yourself, and so this tension would be, I think, more and more, as you were saying and asking, more and more relevant, to our existence, but also to our identity as human beings. Forse siamo più. C'è qualche altra impellentissima, super calda domanda, se volete? Perché mi sa che siamo oltre il tempo massimo, da un po'. Grazie intanto. Thank you very much. Thank you for the organization to invite us. So if you want to re-watch the movie, it's on the lobby of the Museum of Oriental Art. and it's going to be on for a few months. So come and visit. Thank you. Bye.